Hello and welcome to the Power Lunch live show. Every week I bring together as many as 4, sometimes 5, occasionally 3, now and then 1. Awesome guests. We have some fantastic conversations, lots of fun, learn some things, and let me introduce them to you now. So our first guest that we're going to learn a bit about is Noah Scott. Noah, tell us about yourself and why you're awesome.
Hey, what's going on? So I am currently traveling the world as a full-time nomad. I host retreats in amazing destinations for entrepreneurs, creatives, and just living life.
That is
And
pretty cool. You're the first full-time nomad we've had on the show, I think. So that
there
is
we go.
great.
There's going to be many more with that whole great resignation stuff
Mhm.
going on.
I look forward to hearing a lot more about that. And Safrianna, tell us about yourself and how you're awesome, besides the fact you have your first name as a website.
Oh, yes. And that was my first claim to fame, I guess, putting my name as a website. That actually, people were like, I take you more seriously because your name is your website.
Mhm.
But yes, I am Safrianna, and I am one half of Living Luna. We're a podcast community and movement. We sort of embrace the others of the world in trying to elevate social media and actually building community that can have open, meaningful, mature conversations without having to reduce ourselves to mudslinging and being angry all the time. So
Did you say social media and mature conversations together in the same sentence?
Yeah, I did. That's pretty
Whoa.
radical, isn't it?
Wow. That's we have 2 mythical creatures on the show so far. And Luna is how you pronounce your last name, correct?
Luna, yes. So livinglunas.com is our other domain.
So if anyone's looking at that and at the Lughna, it's Luna.
Mm-hmm.
And
not Lughna.
Not Lughna, Luna. All right. And next is Dean Isaacs.
Hey, Michael. So Dean Isaacs, excuse me. I'm the founder of Vantage Group. The reason we're in business is to help business owners achieve their goals and dreams, and do that in less time, with less hassle, and less brain damage, quite honestly. So if you don't have consistent income and revenue coming into the business in a predictable way, you're never going to grow. So that's the problem we help solve for business owners.
All right. Fantastic. So, and I should talk a little bit about me, shouldn't I? Because I'm the host. I am terrible at that. I run a private networking group, and we'll get to the end, and sometimes someone will be like, so Michael, what are you looking for? And I'm like, oh, right. I didn't put myself on the list of who was going to go, when I made the order. So I finally got in the habit of doing that. It's all about, the cobbler has no shoes. So I am Michael Whitehouse. I am the guy who knows the guy. I am a networking concierge. People hire me to make introductions for them. I am one of a lot of people are like, I've never heard of anyone who does that. And I say that makes sense because I've only met 2 other people who do what I do. So it's pretty unique, but I do done for you networking. Basically, I also teach people networking, and I have a daily podcast called Morning Motivation. You can go to morningmotivation.fun, and if you sign up there, then you will get in your email a powerful hit of motivation inspiration every day at approximately 6 a.m. It's 2 to 5 minutes, and it'll get you going, inspired and happy and fired up and all that kind of stuff. So that's what I've got for you today. So let's kick off talking about some topics. And first up is going to be Noah talking about hosting and planning deeply connected events.
Yeah, beautiful. So thank you so much, Michael. What's so awesome about sharing the show with you today is that we have a similar mission. It's really about connection. And so often we run through our lives, if you look at the stats, like the average American has something like 9 friends that they call their close friends. And that's pretty sad about it. It's like at school, at college, we're so used to having an institution in which to make our friends. And then when we go into the real world, suddenly we're too lazy to get out there and make friends. And so one of the things that I've really put a lot of effort into creating systems that enable connection quickly. And so one of the ways that I'm able to do that is through hosting retreats, through hosting dinner parties. And through the years of doing this, what I've found is that when you have like-minded peers come together and you're not wasting time trying to sift through to decide if this person is going to be a good friend or not, suddenly you're able to go deep a lot quicker. And that's kind of what this whole thing that I've built called The Big Possible is really about, is about how to tap into powerful networks of friends and communities and then have fun while you're doing it. So quit my job about 7 months ago and have gone full in on this idea of hosting luxury retreats around the world. And I was thinking that this might be something that would be pretty amazing. And then after the first one, when I had people coming up to me with, tears in their eyes saying that, wow, this changed my life, I realized that, okay, I have to keep doing this. So, I mean, I'll just drop with one quick, easy thing that you guys can do if you want to start expanding your social network, start hanging out with people that are like-minded, maybe inspiring and uplifting. One of the easiest things that you can do is to host a dinner party. And this puts you in a position of authority. You're able to bring a bunch of other people together. And then if you give people some excellent prompts to start asking deeper questions, it's not just going to be small talk. People are going to make deeper friendships than they would have if they were just to meet on this, for example, or at a conference when you're handing out a business card. So that's just one easy thing that you can do to really just amp up your networking game. And I'm sure that Michael's got a ton of other tips for you there, but yeah, I'll just pause there, and then if we want to just maybe throw out some questions around how adventure can spark deep conversations, let's do it.
Yeah, so no, we definitely need to set up like a 9-hour one-to-one, because we probably have a lot to talk about.
Absolutely.
So,
I was going to say, I would love to see a dinner party hosted by Michael. I think that would be a very swanky affair.
Totally.
So what's interesting, I am really good at some things and really bad at others. The second category tends to be anything detail oriented. So swanky would probably not describe anything that I organized myself. It might have some amazing people at it, but would be eating off paper plates. Now, if my wife was involved in running it, that will up the swankiness level, and which is why a lot of my goal is to get her into my business, because she brings a lot to it. But yeah, it's interesting you talk about the dinner party as the easy way to do it. I read the first networking book I read was Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi. And
Yes.
like that's what got me started in networking 15 years ago. And I'm like, oh, host dinner party. And I was never able to do it because I had a small apartment. And yes, I know he says you can host them anywhere, but like never happened. And then we had an apartment with a kid in it, 900 square foot apartment with me, my wife, and our 4-year-old daughter. So wasn't happening there. But so I had to get creative and do other things. So, and then of course now I live in the internet. So I host things like the Power Lunch live show, which is kind of like a lunch party broadcast to the internet and networking groups. But yeah, it's really just exactly what you say, that I'm not good at individually remembering like, oh, I haven't talked to Noah in a while, I should reach out to him. I have a very short list of people I intentionally try to stay in touch with, which means talking to them at least every 6 weeks. And for the most part, it's a matter of creating pens of spaces that people can be contained in, whether it's a community, email list, convention, the game store I opened straight out of college, because I know I'm not good at individual connections. So I try to create events and spaces which will sort of create a center of gravity they'll orbit around, and then I can be like, oh, look, it's all the people. So yeah, that's right. But I'm really interested in the concept of building the retreats intentionally.
Yeah, it really comes down to something like I call it the SPICE framework, which is, when I'm doing a dinner party or a retreat, you really just have these 5 components. The S stands for space, so you need to make sure that the space is conducive of what the mood is that you want to bring out to your party. So obviously, if you want something swanky, you skip the paper plates and you bring in the china, or you just go rent a restaurant. Like I'm doing one here in Bucharest this week, and I just called the restaurant and said, hey, can I get a table for 8? That's set, that's covered. I don't have to worry about it. All I have to do is show up. So think about the space, make sure it's in line with the intention for the evening. And then the next most important thing is the people. So the P in the spice, right? So if you are curating the people so that if you kind of think of the Elon Musk concept of vectors, right? You want all the vectors to move in the same direction. So if you have a whole bunch of conflicting interests and like ideologies, the dinner party might turn into a debate, which isn't necessarily a good thing. Some conscious, constructive debate might be very helpful, but thinking in terms of how can we constructively create the evening with a round-centered reason, and then the spice, not space.
Oh,
So
yeah,
that
I knew that.
that leads me to, I was like drawing a blank. What's the A stand for? I was like, whoa, yeah. No, but so that leads into the next thing, which is an intention. So if you have a shared intention for the evening or for the retreat, for example, at the Big Possible retreats, what we do is we focus on coming out a better business owner than you showed up with. I mean, there's more to it than that, but really that's the idea. Can you set big goals that are you're going to need to lean on the community for support? And then actually, I'm drawing a blank on C for one moment. I'll have to pull up my notes. And then E is expression. So when you think about having a safe place in which everybody can actually talk, so you can have like common questions that people can go deep on and actually have a feeling to be vulnerable and to actually share. And then for my C, I am missing my C, so I'm gonna throw in curriculum, right? And that's just basically coming up with the structure for the evening, making sure that everything is flowing, making sure that you have a container in which people can feel as if things are flowing in the right direction.
Yeah, I love that concept and structure.
I live for acronyms. Fun fact. I was writing this down. I was also thinking, C could be connection. I don't know what
I'm trying to find it. I don't know why.
But...
Like when we're live, it's like you
no,
have to
I
go on the
totally
memory.
get that. I totally get that.
It's whatever you tell us it is, right? So it doesn't matter.
Exactly it. Yeah, just own it. It's confidence. That's
right.
what it
is. There you go.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
yeah, it's funny because I now have this 3,000 square foot house that we bought during the pandemic and have not used. I mean, we use it obviously, but haven't used like for the kind of thing I want to do. And it's partly because my wife, who is the swankier one, is like, we can't have people over. The place is a mess. I'm like, the place will always be a mess. We need to set a date, invite the people, and then we'll catch up. But I did come across there's a great little bar in the area, and I realized, and on Mondays and Tuesdays it's a ghost town. They're open, but there's like 3 people in there. I was like, oh, well, let's host like a business owners happy hour. Nice and simple. Happy hour. If 2 people show up, great. 2 people have a beer together. 10 people show up, it's an event. 50 people show up, it's a better event. But kind of creating that using the space, because it's a nice like lounge kind of vibe. It's not like a smelly gross bar. It's a hang out and play checkers kind of bar. But it creates that space. That's something I've always been looking for, is what are those high leverage opportunities, especially when I didn't have the money to invest, maybe to rent out a restaurant. Trying to find a place like, where can we put the people that will draw them together.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think if you just, I'll end with a question, and just say, when was the last time that you made a really, really deep connection? And this is for the other guests. Just think about somebody in a random environment or a situation, and maybe somebody that had the most impact in your life. Like, what was the context in which you met them?
Well, something that sprang immediately to mind for me was actually a recent kind of fluke event. I decided to take a retreat, a solo retreat, literally into the woods, to stay in an Airbnb RV. And just do some spiritual work. And when I got there, the Airbnb owner showed me around. And then she said, hey, I'm going to have a bonfire tonight. And if you want to walk up to my property, you can. There might be some other people. It might just be us. And I was like, okay, maybe. I came here to do the solo retreat. But the divine timing worked out. I finished doing what I was doing right as it was time to go up for the bonfire. So I made the choice to, and I got up there, and there was one other person there. And I just saw the comment from my wife. Yes, I am very good at hosting events. Thanks, babe. But I got to this campfire. There was the host and one other person there, and we all just sat around the bonfire for a while in silence. And then probably 10 minutes in, just enjoying the fire, the host ended up asking like a really profound question about just what are the themes of your life right now? And there was just this like moment of like, do we lean in? And then we all kind of mutually agreed we're doing this. And I mean, the conversation just blossomed. It was beautiful. It was authentic. We were able to be raw with each other because we were in this container, this space of the forest. And we all had like a life-changing moment that night. So it, all of this, the space, the people, the intention, the expression, like all of this is just really, I think, a good recipe. I love that recipe that you have laid out for those moments.
Totally. And thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's being out of the comfort zone and having that safety to go deep. It shortcuts that connection time so fast. Yeah, and then asking the right questions where you're not skimming the surface. And yeah, but Dean, what about you?
Yeah, and so I'm an introvert by nature, especially in groups, right? But you have to show up differently in that kind of environment. So for me, it's a lot of effort. It's a lot of effort to show up and be that person that you need to be in the group. And so I was in a mastermind recently, and when you go to a mastermind, you expect to have those relationships. You kind of pay to have those relationships. So it can feel false. So it can feel like, is this going to really work out? And there are other people in the group, and some people I'm not really jiving with. But in this particular situation, it took a little repetition. It wasn't that first impact, that first meeting. It was like, wow, there was angels coming down from the heaven. It wasn't like that. It took time. But out of that, there were some really strong and amazing relationships that have formed in my life that I'm really thankful for. But the hope is you get those like quick impact, quick relations, that conversation around the campfire, right? And you get that impact. It didn't happen for me immediately. It took some repetition. So for me, it was like, don't give up on these relationships. Don't give up on these people. You kind of got that feel of who's going to be that person potentially. And so I had to keep working the process. So for me, that particular experience was a little different.
Wow. Thanks for sharing. I love the tenacity and faith in the process. That's just brilliant right there that you're able to stick with it. And there is something about the 90-hour sort of theory that they say deep friendships are built after 90 hours together. And I think you can't really shortcut just the time investment that it's necessary to actually feel like you can trust somebody. But deep questions, intentional time can, make everything a lot easier. For sure. And Michael, you're not off the hook either.
Yeah. So I've just made a fair number of surprising connections, but one thing I've discovered a long time ago, I think a lot of people are afraid to share, their stories, their vulnerable moments and whatnot, because somehow someone will use it against them. And I don't mean like someone who committed a crime and isn't talking about it because they're going to jail, but I mean just like they're embarrassing stories or things like that. And what I found is it's far more common that people hurt you by accident because they don't realize you're sensitive about, they don't realize that your pet gecko died when you were 7. You're still upset about it. And they make a joke about a gecko. And you're like, oh my God, how can you joke about geckos? Well, you didn't tell me your gecko story because you somehow thought if someone knew your gecko vulnerability, they'd use it against you. But I think it's far more often people aren't trying to hurt anybody. They're just trying to be funny, or they're trying to fit in. And that's where the conflicts occur. And even on the rare occasion, someone does get a piece of information and tries to turn it against you. I actually had someone who has been removed from my network, shall we say, who I did a coaching call with, and actually took some of the things that I shared during the call and used them like in public social media comments to score points. And I was like, dude, what? Yeah, this is very few people are on my blacklist, but he made the cut. But it didn't like hurt me that much. It was just a matter of, okay, cool. Yes, my wife used to make more money than me. Okay, yes, that's a fact that maybe you think is important. But so because of that, I'm very comfortable sharing whatever, which opens up, much more free flowing conversations and much more deep rapid connections, because I don't need to get to the point where I can be like, okay, can I share this fact? Can I share that I had to support myself on Uber for a year? Oh, yeah, I share that in public. I share all these things publicly, and because I'm sharing, it often makes other people willing to share, and so the depth can be achieved. Because I live my life in Zoom calls. Occasionally I get really excited too. I just started going out to a bar every Saturday night. Didn't even know what bars were for. I heard about people going to them. It was like a mythical place. Finally found that really good. The one I'm actually going to be doing that happy hour at. And they do karaoke every Saturday, and it's a really cool vibe. And just everyone's there to have fun, and it's people of all ages. And I'm like, oh, that's why people go to these places. Now I get it. Because all the ones I've been to before, I'm like, why would anyone pay to go here? But yeah, but so most of my contacts are 30-minute Zoom calls, often back-to-back 30-minute Zoom calls, which one would think would be a recipe for shallow connections. And yet I have people who, because I'm willing to dive straight in, and I don't need to feel them out. Can I trust them? Like, they can't do anything with anything I'm giving them. So it's not like, oh my God, I have learned that you opened a game store and I'm going to use that against you somehow. So by being open, I've had some 30-minute calls that were amazing. And at the end of it, they're like, oh crap, I have another call. We definitely need to talk again very soon. And so I kind of treat the world as my group of friends, and treat them all with that level of openness. And it's kind of, and it's cool because I'm, again, trying to create communities, and I introduce a lot of people to each other, which then expands that bubble around me. And it's really, creates a really pleasant environment. People talk about Zoom fatigue, and I'm like, I love being on Zoom all the time because there's really cool people on my screen all the time. How could I get tired of that?
Beautiful. I love the vulnerability and just owning your story and sharing it. Wow, that's so powerful. Yeah. Well, cool. I don't want to take up too much time because I know everyone else has got to chat too. So I'm gonna let someone else take the torch now.
Absolutely. Yeah. I just one quick thought. I was just talking about the disc profile and how I'm primarily D, secondary I, and we're actually talking about how I'll share my stories, because the I part of me wants to share my stories, and the D part of me says that's good marketing for a coach. So it works really well. They both parts are like, yes, share all the stories, either because you want to or because it creates credibility, which can create, business advantages. Either way, share all the stories. So, speaking of sharing stories, Dean is going to talk to us about building a referral partner network.
Yeah. So I know obviously Michael does this for a living, right? It sounds like, Noah, you kind of do it too in a different way. And I'm sure we all do, right? We're all told when we start a business, you got to get out there, you got to network. And I've started 2 different businesses over the last 18 years, both professional services, both locally based and locally focused, pre-pandemic, pre-Zoom, all that fun stuff. And in both cases, I started these businesses in cities where I had no contacts, no connections, no referral partners, nothing, 0. And so I learned a lot, and I went through a lot of mistakes. And so, there are some basic things that we all know that we should do when we build our referral partner network. But for me, I found a few things that shortcut or speed up the process. We've all kind of probably been through this process of like death by coffee meeting, right? Coffee meeting after coffee meeting, or it's Zoom after Zoom after Zoom. And while it's fun to meet great people and tell great stories, Michael, right? There has to be some return on that investment, whatever it is, whether it's you can give of value or you receive value. And so many business owners I work with and talk to, especially people that are sort of early in business, and they're told to go out and network and meet as many people as you can, make these same mistakes over and over and over. And many of them are not paid to network, right? They're paid to do the thing that they deliver value with, and that's the goal of networking. So I came up with some rules that I use and I teach some of my clients that I've learned over the last 17 or 18 years of networking that I found really speeds up the process and makes networking, whether it's in person or virtually, far more effective. So the first one is you're told to develop your ideal client profile. right? What's your niche? What's your value proposition? Who is your ideal client? But very few people think about developing a profile of their ideal referral partner. So that's one thing that really speeds up the process, is it gets you focused. Now, that profile can look like a lot of different things. It could be that you like to work with insurance brokers. That's a piece of a profile. Or you like to work with people that work with a certain industry, right? There, your industry is part of the profile. It doesn't matter what the profile looks like, but it allows you to start to really narrow down the people that you first should be seeking to look to connect with. And when people say, well, how can I help you? How can I connect you? You know who to ask to be connected to. So starting with that ideal referral partner profile is really, really important. And always include the element of people I like to hang out with. Whatever that means to you. If you like hanging out with introverts or extroverts or people that play chess or whatever, or people that are Star Wars fans, I don't care. Add that piece into the profile, because that's really important, because ultimately you're probably not going to refer people that you don't really like, even if they're good at their work, and they're probably not going to jive with you too. So include that component in your ideal client profile. So that's the first thing I learned, is don't just meet with everybody and then sort of cast a wide net and narrow it down. You can get much more focused much more quickly. So that's one piece of value that I found works really well. The other is always give first. And I see Michael nodding his head there because he does that. He lives this. So I have a process that I always follow when I meet somebody new, is to make an introduction to that person within the first 24 hours of meeting them. It doesn't have to be a client intro. It could be a referral, another referral partner, another connector. Make an introduction in the first 24 hours after you meet them, and then make another introduction within 30 days or before you meet them next, without them asking. So the first one's kind of expected because you probably said, hey, Noah, I'm going to connect you with Michael, and you know it's coming. But the second one, you don't know it's coming. Out of the blue, you get this introduction that is a ton of value, right? So that's a way to sort of add value and build relationships first, because when you meet with them the second time, what do? They say, well, you've introduced me to two people. How can I help you? They want to help you. And so if you know exactly who the ideal referral partner is, you can ask, who do you know that looks like this, that fits this sort of this profile? Now you've got a great introduction. And then the third thing is leverage of time. And I think we've all sort of learned this over the sort of COVID era. But once you've built a network, don't just meet with them one-on-one. Bring them together, much like today, right? This is a perfect example. I call this a 4x4. 4 people in a room that you've created that relationship, that value, and you come with intention on a lot of the things, Noah, you talked about earlier. But do those intentionally, and you get to expand your network, and you get to expand their networks significantly, and you get 4x return on your investment in time. So those are some things that I think about when it comes to referral partner building that can speed up the process and make it a lot more efficient.
So I love everything you just said, because it's all the philosophies I run my business by, and never heard anyone else say them that way. So,
all right.
Yeah, especially, I'm glad you brought the leverage concept, because a lot of people, I always laugh whenever I see like a fill your calendar challenge. And like, I need to fill my calendar like I need to lighten my hair.
Yeah,
I need to empty my calendar. It's full. It's full. Even right now, still with all the tools I have in place. My next open appointment is back to being in 5 weeks from now. But that's why I created the Power Lunch, because so many people wanted to be on my podcast, which was an hour for a one-on-one interview, that I said, well, what if I created a open show? And I have more fun with this show than I've paused the other show because that lost focus. And this one just like, this is amazing. This is like a 4x4 in public. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And then I created what I call a connection bonanza, because most people who meet me, they meet me because most people want to meet me because they want access to my network, which is cool. Some guy knows a guy. Of course you want access to my network, but I don't have to give half an hour to give you access to my network. I could meet you I could put 9 people in a room for 1 hour. They're going to meet each other, and I'm going to hear what they need. Say, all right, yeah, you seem cool. I'm going to connect you with Dean and Noah. And boom, they're happy. They just met 2 people plus 2 other people in the room. And I just met 9 people in an hour and then figured out which ones I need to follow up with. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways you figure out how to leverage the time and be more efficient. Because yes, I started by meeting with everyone, and just by trial and error started to figure out, oh, I should probably narrow down who I need to meet with.
Yeah, it's not scalable, right? And yeah, I think the other thing that comes to mind is a concept that I call being easily referable.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I was terrible at that for a long time.
Right? Like if that person doesn't come away from that meeting knowing exactly what I do and or exactly who I need to connect with, I've failed. So make it really easy. So for me, I don't try and get fancy with if you know somebody that needs to grow their sales, they're having issues with their marketing, lead gen, their sales and conversions, anything to do with the revenue cycle in their business, let me talk to them. I may not be the guy, because we don't do websites, we do strategy, but I know some really great web developers. Let me introduce you to the right person. I don't want my referral partners to try and diagnose their client or their network's problem. That's my job. So I sort of, in marketing, you want to sort of narrow the lead funnel, right? So it's quality leads. In networking, in referrals, I should say, you want to open that funnel up. Mm-hmm. Make it really easy for people to make the introduction and let me or whomever or you guys, go through the qualifying process, because most of the time you can get to that problem really quickly and you'll know, yep, Safrianna's the gal, she can do it. Or you know what? No, maybe I need to introduce this person to Noah. Right? So be very easily referable. That's the piece I think a lot of people miss as well.
Yep. Yeah, and as I forgot to give in the briefing earlier, feel free to just jump in, pretend you're at a lunch party. So you don't need to wait.
Yeah,
I don't want to know his events, right?
Talk. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I've been over here taking notes. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but because this is where I'm at in my business right now, is the starting to network, and I'm already hitting that full schedule. So this is like really great stuff. I definitely think like this is a great format for getting people together that can help each other out on problems that you don't actually know you have until you hear it from someone else. But it was really cool to hear you talking about that, Dean, because in working with Michael, like this is his philosophy. That is exactly what he does. And that's, why I'm here, is because he followed this like really genuinely open and giving process that made me feel welcomed and seen. And that makes me want to work with him more and figure out how I can help him. And so really just building those meaningful relationships and not just casting your net out there at anybody, but really discerning and being intentional about who's on the right wavelength to connect with me and needs what I have to offer, or I need what they have to offer.
Yeah. But the interesting thing is, go ahead, Noah.
No, well, yeah, when you're talking about being easy referable, I'd love to hear like a little bit more, like what does that really entail? Because like the first thing that comes to my mind is like, okay, when somebody refers me, I don't just blow them off, but I'm like, okay, I'm quick to respond and then I'm doing what you're talking about in the first part. I'm giving, right? Okay, they sent me my way, and now let me add value to them, and then send them on their way. What else goes into that outside of just what I picked up on?
Yeah, so it's really in response to this. Well, how can I help you, Noah? Thanks for making that introduction. How can I help you? Right? They should know exactly who either your ideal referral partners are or your client profile is. And so for a client profile, I'll use me for an example. I work with B2B business owners, right? So that's one key piece. So if you're working with a B2C business owner that has similar problems, I can chat with them, happy to give them some guidance, but we may not be the right solution. So B2B business owners, so all my referral partners, my network, my friends know I work with B2B businesses. That's number one. So that makes it easy for them to filter out who can I make an intro to. And if they have any issues around marketing and sales, again, super wide. It's almost generic, but that's okay. So sales and marketing, sort of business growth stuff, right? B2B businesses. That makes it really easy for them to sort of think about who fits into that profile versus saying, for example, well, we work with consumer product businesses in the Northwest of the US. We do SEO, PPC, and like, what? How am I going to find someone that needs all of that? That's not easily referable. That's the opposite. So that's the first piece. The other would be on the referral partner side. If you've developed your profile for your ideal connection, and you can communicate that quickly and easily, that's the other part about being really easily referable. So for me, referral partners, anybody that's providing professional services, consulting to ownership and leadership of B2B businesses, are great referral partners for me. Super easy. I don't care what their profession is. I don't care if they're a CPA, a technology person, a management consultant. It don't matter. So that's sort of what I think about when I say being easily referable. Does that make sense?
And
Totally.
am I hearing that? Like, I was terrible at that for the longest time because my business wasn't clear. So I couldn't possibly know who I needed because I didn't know exactly what I was doing. I had like, here's some offerings, and people would tell me like, you're unreferable. I want to help you. I don't know how. And I'm like, I know. I can't figure it out. And I still haven't quite zeroed it. I kind of know who I'm looking for my core business, but I'm so picky about who my clients are for that I don't necessarily look for those. But I now go in and try to think about who can I refer. And the partners thing is crucial, because if I meet you for the first time and you say my ideal partners are social media consultants, I'll introduce you to 3 of them right off the bat. Because I'm not saying, because if I introduce you to a prospect, there's going to be a pitch. We're going to be talking about business. And so if you're not good, or you're pitchy, or you're aggressive, and I don't know this yet because I've known you for 10 minutes, then that comes back to me and they're like, hey, why'd you introduce me to Bob? Bob pitched the crap out of me and it was awful. Whereas if I meet you for 10 minutes and you say, I'm looking to meet with, people who support business owners, I'm like, okay, yeah, let me connect you with Beth Blaney. She runs a bookkeeping firm, which actually, Dean, I'm going to introduce you to Beth Blaney if I haven't already. She runs a bookkeeping firm, and I'm going to make the introduction saying, hey, you guys might have some collaboration potential. Check it out. You have a half-hour conversation. Probably worst case scenario is we didn't gel, but thanks for the introduction. And best case is, oh my God, it's my brother from another mother, and we're launching a business together, and which you get. But the partner introduction is super easy to make. When I do the connection bonanzas, I'm not connecting prospects at all because I've known you for 7 minutes. But if you can be really clear about, well, the people we partner with are, nomads who plan events, and I'd be like, oh, I got a guy for you. But if you say my ideal customer is businesses having trouble with sales, I'd be like, yeah, that's a cool customer. Good. Yep.
Yeah,
that's why everybody is 0 to 3 introductions, not 1 to 3 introductions. But yeah, that's vital, because it's much easier to make a partner introduction than a prospect introduction.
Yeah, it's a much lower risk intro, right? Our brand is always associated with that connection, so you can afford to make a few of those without it blowing up too badly in your face.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But what I will say about that, so I have made, let me check the records here, 861 introductions since November, and 0 of them have come back negative. Not one of them has someone come back and said, that was a bad experience. Now, plenty don't come back at all. I never hear, or they don't meet, or whatever. And plenty are like, yeah, Matt, whatever. But none of them have come back as like, what did you do to me?
So here's the question. Are you lucky, or are you just that good? That's the question.
Well, I think it's because I don't make prospect introductions.
Yeah.
So I'm not setting people up for a pitch, and I'm not, and there's only one person, that person I referred to earlier, who like, I feel bad that I brought him into my universe at all, because someone did end up working with him and had a very bad experience. And but that was an introduction. He was a speaker at an event that I ran, and she found him through the event. I still ended up giving her, a bunch of my own services in compensation, because I'm like, I was involved in that connection. I feel responsible.
Yeah.
But no, for the most part, if you work with good people and abundance-minded, positive, the right kind of people, they're going to come together and do pretty well. And it's one other comment I want to make, something Safrianna mentioned about, how I give first and whatnot. It's funny hearing that those habits complemented, because it's basically, I took out all the things I'm bad at, and what was left is what I do. So I'm bad at follow-up. I don't send the thank you notes. I don't remember the birthdays. I don't remember, sometimes I'll remember a key detail here or there, but for the most part, all that stuff that shows you care, awful at. But what I'm good at is introductions. So I'll make 2 or 3 introductions and then forget your birthday and how to pronounce your name and everything else about you. And it tends to most people are like, I'm okay with that. I would rather have the introductions than the nice card. The nice card would be nice too, but I'm very upfront. Like, it's not because I don't care. It's because the mental energy it would take to be that person would be too expensive. So I provide the value. And what that means is if someone needs the thank you note to have a relationship, well, that's not someone to have a close relationship with. We'll still be acquaintances. We're still cool, but I might not be the person for a close relationship with them. But I've acknowledged I'm bad at this stuff. I'm not going to strain myself. I'm going to do what I'm good at. And for the right people resonate with it. And it's about authenticity.
I'm so glad you said that. I have the same challenge with like the follow-up stuff, the birthday things, and forget it. But just like it's not who I am. I'm not very good at that. I can barely remember to call my parents.
Yes. Surprising. The person who wanders the world throwing parties is not good at follow-up and details?
Details, yes, but follow-up less so. But yes, details for sure.
But Safrianna is good at follow-up. But not dinner party details.
I remind people to follow up. I am less good at doing it myself, but that's, ADHD or dates, I cannot hold in my brain. I literally if you tell me something is at 2 p.m., I need reminders like literally, which thankfully, Michael, your stuff, you send those reminders. They are on like clockwork. But if that does not happen, I will forget that it exists if I have not put it in my planner somewhere. So I have to write everything down.
Yep. Yeah, my Calendly sends a text and email reminder at 3 hours, 1 hour, and 15 minutes to everyone who sets an appointment with me. I 3 times have had someone come on the call and say, wow, you send a lot of reminders. And the first time, the first time was really early on. I'm like, oh, shoot, I'm annoying people. Maybe I should change it. And then the call went really badly. The next time was a few months later. And I'm like, I bet this call is going to go badly. And it did. And now it's just a warning sign. If someone comes on the call and the first they say is, you send a lot of reminders, it's kind of annoying. I'd be like, all right. Oh, man, something just came up. The dog is on fire. I got to go take care of that. Because most people are busy enough that they're like, thank God. I have people, thank God it sent 3 reminders. So I saw the one 3 hours ago. And then I got into something and I completely forgot again. And the 15-minute one reminded me and I stopped and I came on. So, because the kind of people I want to talk to are busy enough, they need 6 reminders in the 3 hours before the meeting.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yep. So, Safrianna, it is your turn to take the helm and talk to us about the very specific set of topics of mental health, spirituality, and nerd culture. So
I know when I saw you throw together this combo of things, I was like, okay, challenge accepted. How do we weave this
together? You don't have to use them all. It's just
I know.
Yes, so for anyone applying for the show, do not put a topic of I can talk about blah 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 blah, because I'm going to pick one pretty much at random. Or I'm going to do a mashup for you. So
we're going to mash it up. We're just going to go with it. Absolutely. So just to give a little bit of, I guess, storytelling here about why and how these 3 topics could come together in the first place. So I'm currently a therapist and spiritual leader, coach type person. I do trainings and whatnot. But my origin story really comes from being a baby nerd. Literally, World of Warcraft was the first step to my life changing and becoming a more spiritual person, oddly enough. And so growing up as a gamer, especially a woman in gaming, you might be able to imagine if you've ever interfaced with the gaming population that it's full of some really toxic people, especially towards women who game. And for a long time, my mental health was not in a great place. My spiritual health wasn't in a great place. And I kind of took this on because I wanted to be a part of gamer culture. It was my hobby. It was the thing that I like to do. So it was really hard to avoid it, but I had no boundaries. So fast forward to me studying to be a therapist and kind of going down the path that I am now, it really dawned on me that there's not a lot of education out there about how to build communities and how to communicate well and how to get along with people that are different than you. And so Living Lunas, which is my wife and my brand new brand. We launched a podcast in March and began talking about our experiences in the world very authentically. I was so glad that, a couple of us are bringing up the concept of authenticity, because Luna and Living Luna stands for loving, unashamed, and nurturing authenticity. Because what our whole brand about our movement, our podcast, our community is literally all about being able to be healthy with other people and have vulnerable conversations and have disagreements and still be able to share space. So when I think about nerd culture and I think about where it is currently, it's still not really in an upward trend. It's still not really healthy. I mean, if you look at any form of social media, it's quite frankly kind of a shit show in there. And that's what I want to change. So one of the things that I would just want to throw out there as you think about your social media engagement, and I'd love to have a conversation about this. Am I engaging from a place of fear? Am I engaging from a place of anger or hurt? And when I think about, again, gamers and nerd culture, a lot of that is coming from a place of anger. There are specific video games I avoid like the plague, because it is such a toxic culture that I feel that spiritual hit, that energetic hit, that mental health hit going into those spaces and being treated in a certain way. So I've had to develop boundaries. So what are your boundaries like with social media here in this group, out of curiosity? Like, do you have a very curated experience, or are you still seeing a lot of junk kind of coming up where you're looking?
I've been calling. So I had a dating podcast a while back, and I had my virtual assistant just go randomly add a whole bunch of just random people that I had no idea who they were to just be on the dating podcast. And so it's taken me like several, because I'll see them pop up in my feed and I'm like, okay, unfollow, Cole. But that's actually, it was almost a blessing in disguise, because when I would scroll on the social, it was like, I don't even recognize, I have no association with any of this junk that I'm seeing, that it became something that I didn't really want to see anyway. So I was able to distance myself a little bit from that. But now I'm finding like LinkedIn is my jam. I'm really enjoying the time I'm spending on LinkedIn, and I want to be more active there. And I'm getting like nourishing content from like the people I'm connecting with, the fellow speakers that show up at my events and stuff. And so I'm really finding more time on LinkedIn, less time on the Instagram. And I'm like, Instagram, I'm gonna go find a date on Instagram or something. That's all I'm using that for. But
yeah, no, and it's a great point about LinkedIn. Like, the community there is very different. The purpose behind the community is already so intentional, of like, we're professionals connecting, that you're already kind of filtering out a lot of how other social media platforms are used. But why can't we use those other social platforms in a similar way? So
yeah, for me, it is that intention of the platform. And although all the platforms have a different intention for me, no, like you said, LinkedIn is my jam. That's where I spend all my time, post tons of, I think, hopefully valuable content. Somebody looks at it, build those intentional relationships. That's my goal for LinkedIn. That's mostly my business side, and a little bit of who I am outside of business, but mostly business, right? It's got that facade around it a little bit. Then Facebook has really always just been family and friends. I've never used Facebook to build groups and all this stuff. It's just not where I hang out or where my clients hang out. But Instagram is different again. So I think of Instagram as this experiment for me, right? I've gone through that process now of adding and all that kind of thing and build my following and all that. I don't care about the people on Instagram or what they say or think of me, because I have no relationship with them. Their opinion means zero, maybe 15% of them, because I know them, right? So and then like TikTok, I'm on TikTok just as a voyeur to see what crazy goes on there, right? So for me, I don't think of social media as one big bucket. I really look at each platform as differently, because there's intent that's different. I think the people that show up are different, and the negativity levels can be different too. Now, I'm a white dude. I don't get a lot of backlash. I'm not in that profile that attracts a lot of negative attention. Perhaps I'm lucky that way. I don't know, but I still see some of that on LinkedIn for sure. So I look at them all very differently.
Yeah, and I think you're totally right that it can be these different buckets. And what my vision is elevating all of the buckets. Let's upgrade all the buckets, right? And like be more intentional about it. But the fact of the matter is that we don't have good education about mental health and spiritual health, and the separation between what's our truth and other people's truth, and the fact that that's okay. Like, it's okay for people to have different versions of their truth. So, Living Luna is this movement all about providing mental health education to people. We train on inclusivity in businesses. We do talk to people about how they can connect better. Noah, you and I need to have a very long talk, I feel like, about your retreats and whatnot, because basically what Noah, you're doing in person, we're trying to do online, and basically create these spaces. So our Discord channel is really the place, and I love Discord. Have any of you heard of that platform?
Mm-hmm.
I love Discord too. It's just I want to move everybody to Discord, but
Yes,
some dinosaurs of my friends are still hesitant to join the party. But yeah, no, Discord's amazing.
I would love to join your Discords, and I would love you to join ours, because we're trying to make a space where people that are nerdy, geeky, spiritual, queer, super into Star Wars, like literally our most busy channel is the Pokemon channel. And I'm like, of all the things, this is not what I thought would take off, but here we are. But because we're all like, we're all here to connect. Whatever you like is fine. We have a communal space, and then we have our little, interest channels, and everybody's just there to support each other and celebrate each other. It's such a different social media feel. I know I've gone into a lot of Discord servers, and they're just pain dumps. People are just dumping their complaints and their pain. And yeah, we need places like that too. But in a giant social container is maybe not the best place to do that, especially when groupthink is such a problem, right? And we do rile each other up. So I'm glad to, who's here are using their social media pretty intentionally. And I know you do too, Michael.
Well, yeah, and usually the different platforms have different purposes. So funny thing with me and Instagram is I can't be on it because with all the fake profiles, for those of you who don't know about my fake profiles, if you're friends with me on Facebook, there's a album with over 50 of them. But yeah, apparently I'm very popular with Nigerian scammers. I've met a couple of them now on WhatsApp. But I'm very popular with them, so they like to take my picture and use it for catfishing scams. But for whatever reason, they also on Instagram, because Instagram security is atrocious, will use the fake accounts to report my real accounts, and my real accounts get booted. So no Instagram for me. So I do have an Instagram account, but it doesn't have my picture on it. So I only use it to voyeur. Facebook's actually where a lot of my business is, but I've heavily curated that. And a lot of it's like I'll either unfollow people if their content is just not the energy I want in my universe. Usually it's very negative, very disempowered. It's the world is bad, capitalism is bad, the government's bad, everything's bad, it should be fixed, someone should fix things for me, please, someone fix all my problems. And sometimes I try to engage with people, and usually they're like, get away from me, you don't know anything. I'm like, okay, sure, I will get away from you. So I unfriend them if that works, or unfollow if that works, unfriend if I have to, if they're coming into my comments with that kind of stuff, because I just realized I don't need to spend my energy engaging with those folks.
Absolutely.
TikTok is a really interesting environment because not only do I not care about negative comments, but the TikTok algorithm cannot tell negative comments from positive comments. It just knows engagement. So anytime someone comes on and says, this is the stupidest thing in the world, you should get off TikTok, I'm like, I just got 100 more views because of your comment. And then I reply and say something like, thank you for your opinion. And then hopefully they get upset about that and they comment back, and then I get 100 more views. So it's always great to post things that people get upset about, because that's, the one thing I posted that got 150,000 views was something I was talking about the 4 causes of the Great Resignation, and a bunch of people were getting all up in their politics about capitalism is bad and burn down America and whatnot. And I'm like, keep talking, because that just gets more views. Got like 1,500 likes. It was awesome. And then LinkedIn is an interesting environment because you're starting to see more and more politics creeping into it, but there's still a vibe of like, all right, that's cool that you want to talk about that over there. Like, I guess that's fine if you have that opinion, but and actually LinkedIn now does have a function where if you see that, there's an X in the corner and you can click the X and say, I don't want to see things like this. So because LinkedIn knows some users do want to see it and some users don't want LinkedIn turning to Facebook. And I think they've realized they're going to lose their advantage if LinkedIn turns into Facebook. So it's nice that they're like that. But no, TikTok's actually been a really great platform. And I think a lot of people assume you can't get on there unless you're going to be doing dances or filters or this and that. My TikTok channel, it's got 1,500 followers, which is enough to be able to go live. Nobody watches me live, but I can go live. And every one of my videos is I pull my phone out, I hit record for 6 seconds and talk about something. I put a sticker on it. I put the captions on it. And maybe like some words. So when you're looking at the thumbnail, you can tell what it's about. That's it. And I get engagement because there's something on TikTok for everyone. And you can really curate, like, my stuff is all about actually funny political humor, news, business, and a few of my friends. So it ends up being a really cool curated environment. And my TikTok's probably totally different from someone else's TikTok. They're like, what? TikTok's all about Fortnite and dancing. And I'm like, I don't know what platform you're on. Mine's all about like sales strategies, mindset, and science and history. So
I don't even know what mine is about because I literally pull up TikTok, record my cats, or say, hi, this is a cool thing I just got, because I keep it more like a video journal of things I might want to look back at. So yeah, I don't know what my TikTok wall would look like. I'm scared to look because it has been 0% curated. But yeah, I really just think that there's so much potential to really use. Like, this is such a cool container, just 4 people coming together to chat, and maybe some other people watch and they benefit from it. And if they don't, oh well, because I benefited from it. Like, I took notes. I have ideas in my head thanks to this, but we're using it intentionally in that way. And instead of the doom scrolling and the getting in arguments on the comment feeds and all of that, like, how does that help anyone? And the disempowerment is palpable with people just giving it up. They're like,
if people do want to get in arguments in the comments, feel free, go ahead, just argue about whatever you want, because again, Facebook's algorithms cannot tell positive from negative, so fight away. So the offensive things, especially like the really ignorant person posting something that 20 people are going to argue with, those are great for analytics. So if you're super offensive, just come on down in the comments and let all my friends beat you up. That would be good.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Algorithms.
Algorithms. I heard someone talk about the fact that there's a bit of a language shift because of the words you can't say on TikTok. And that years from now, they'll be looking back at the language and be like, why did they start saying unalive? It's weird how that word suddenly entered the language in the early 21st century. Because there's all these euphemistic phrases you have to use because you can't, like, corn became very popular around that time.
See, I'm not on TikTok, so I don't know these things, but that's why that's happening. Okay, because there's banned words.
Yeah, TikTok has algorithms that will actually listen to the words you say in videos and downrate you or actually ban you if you say too much of those things. I think it's just downrating. So, like, if you say certain words, people just won't see your videos. Yeah. So you talk
they'll use an emoji in the spelling of a word.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's really it makes for some really interesting language choices that people use.
Here, I thought that was just like the trigger warning kind of thing, like people not saying an entire word because they didn't want to trigger somebody, because being in the mental health field, good Lord, I hear all about that. I did not know it was algorithm related. Our AI overlords, here we go.
Yeah. So
it's all about the views, right? You don't want to damage your engagement on social media because the world will end if I don't get 100 likes on this post of my cat.
Yep.
Just saying.
But yes, so I have enjoyed how many of you have very accurately shared my philosophy. Like Safrianna, this totally one of the things I think about Power Lunch is if nobody listens, it's still a good experience because we get to have a conversation together. Yeah, if I just brought together these 4 people and for a Zoom call for an hour, you'd probably still be like, "That was a pretty good call. That was good." So nobody's like, "How many viewers do you have?" And if they do, I'm like, "Doesn't matter because you're not going to be on the show, so don't worry about it." If that's what you're looking for, this is not the platform for you. If you're looking for some solid engagement and good conversation that you can then share with your audience if you want to, this is your show. If you're looking to get 100,000 views, Power Lunch is not where you're going to find. You're not going to be discovered for next big break on this show. Unless you meet one of the guests and connect with them and follow up, and that's where your next big break comes from. So, see, which if this show does seem like something you'd be a good guest for, down there scrolling along the bottom. Oh, wait, I'm reversed. Go scrolling along the bottom. There it is the link, guyknowsaguy.com/powerlunch, where you can fill out the application for a future episode to be on there. And for anyone who's on the screen now, I'd love to have any of you back. So this has the theme park model, which is you get to go on the ride, and once you get off the ride, you get in line again. So, and the line is currently pretty short. I think we're only booked up to, I think we actually have open spots in July towards the end of the month. At one point, we were booked out like 2.5 months. So I think most of you probably signed up a couple months ago.
That's what I signed up. I forgot about it. And then I got this notification. But
and I'm glad you came. So you're welcome to hop back on again.
I'm back on the States. Yeah. When I'm back in the States, we'll do it again.
Yeah, that'd be great. And all right, so let's do our final words. So whatever you'd like to share as a wrap up, invitations or whatever. Final words, Safrianna.
I would love anyone that would like to join us on Discord, where we like to hang out and have fun. And you can easily get to our Discord by going to livinglunas.com. This is a placeholder website right now because we're still in the midst of doing all of our branding and messaging. So Discord is like pretty much at the top of the page. And again, we are just all about elevating that social media and having a place where people that are both alike and different can come together, have a good time, share some memes, use some cute emojis, and like have a decent time connecting with people that might be strangers or that you might make an amazing, incredible friendship with. So we would love to have you. And also our podcast, Living Luna, launches on Thursdays usually. We're a little bit behind right now just because life has been chaotic, but we just kind of talk about our opinions on life, and I get really radical on there sometimes. So if you're into that, feel free to listen, and we would love to engage with you however we can. And I really would love to connect with all of you continually here on the show because I think you're awesome people.
Fantastic. I always love connecting with people who are stranger and strangers, either one.
Yeah, likewise. I'd love to stay in touch with all of you. And thebigpossible.com is where you can find everything I've got going on. Two things that I want to share though. One, we're talking about mental health. We're talking about like peace of mind and just being in the Zen. So I do have these meditation tracks that I've been putting together. I just put these guided meditations for like finding confidence, releasing stress and anxiety, channeling abundance, all this stuff. And I just put it out as an experiment on YouTube, and it like overnight they just exploded. So more views than I've ever gotten to anything I've produced, which is crazy. But yeah, they're really powerful, and I think so if you want something that's just a nice pick you up for after your lunch, if the coffee didn't do the trick, you can go check those out on thebigpossible.com. Just hit the blog page, and then there's lots of free guided meditations. And then I've got a dinner party series that I'm doing. I'll be doing just throughout Europe this month or through September. And then I'll hit up New York City and LA towards the end of September. And then I'll be in Tulum for the retreat in November. So yeah, all that's on The Big Possible. You'll be able to find it all there.
New York City is my part of the world. That's exciting.
All right. I'll hit you up when I'm there.
Excellent. And Dean.
Yeah, it was great to meet everybody today. I don't know, Michael, you kind of disappointed me today. Just kidding. It was fun to connect with everybody. My website's right there on the screen, thevantagegrp.com, because I couldn't get group because the domain was already taken. So there you go. Best place to find me really is on LinkedIn. That's where I spend a lot of time, post a lot of content, connect with a lot of people. So if we're not connected, we should connect on LinkedIn. A buddy of mine and I do a monthly event, kind of a show called the Community Table, where we talk about all things sales and marketing every month. So if you're interested, you'll see all the promotion on LinkedIn as well. And I'm always here to help. So reach out. Don't hesitate. If you have questions, we can connect. I'm around. So I appreciate getting to know everybody today.
Awesome. Oh, wait, wrong button. There we go. That's the right button. I found it. Give me a second. This is the problem also being my own actual producer pushing the buttons, because I realize there is a link that I do want to share before I let everyone go, which is guywhoknowsaguy.com/meet, because I mentioned that's MEET, not MEAT. I'm not quite sure what that one would be about. Because I mentioned the connection bonanzas, and I also do an open virtual coffee. So if you want to come by a connection bonanza, you can do that. I'm also realizing that it would probably be valuable even if it's full to attend and watch a connection bonanza, because you get to watch 9 people tell you what they do and who they're looking to meet, which means even if you're not one of the 9, you can still make connections. But none of them are full yet. So if you go to guywhoknowsaguy.com/meet, you'll have access to the connection bonanzas and also my open virtual coffee, which is every Friday at 10 a.m. because Friday is apparently my day full of serendipity of my open virtual coffees where I never know who's coming until I log in, and then my power lunch, which I usually know on Monday who's coming, but not always, because I'll send it out, and that's when people get back to me and say, oh, I forgot I was going to be on the show because I signed up 6 months ago. So never know what's going to happen. It's a very exciting day. Great way to end the week. So thank you all. This has been great and lots of fun. And folks on the screen, stick around for a second after I hit the big red button. Folks who are not on the screen, thank you for watching. And we'll be back here next Friday and pretty much every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern time, or whatever time that is where you are.